producing it on your roof and I'm making it on my roof, who's going to buy the dirty energy out of their fossil fuel plants and their nuclear plants? Nobody. They will be around, or someone will be around to manage the existing grid, but we don't need any future grid. We just need to redo our grid to take more energy back and move it around locally, not push it thousands of miles like they do now. So, next slide. So the myth about technology is not ready, does anybody know what that is?
Mars rover?
That's the Mars rover. That's called Curiosity. That went up 13 years ago. You know, they landed it on Mars. It's kind of cool. They brought it in and parachuted it down, slowed it down, and then a big airbag opened up around it and it bounced. And then it righted itself and it opened up. And they drove it around and they figured it would last like 18 months up there and it'd get buried in the sand. Well, today it's still going. 13 years later, it's still going with old technology, solar panels and batteries. So the technology has been here for a long time. The original solar panel was made way back in the 70s. Is in Smithsonian, still working at about 70% of its original power. And that was very crude compared to what they built today. So the technology is good. It always has been and it always will be. There's no moving parts. They just collect the sunlight. And the reason this is still working is actually Mars has dirt devil dust storms like we do. And it comes along and cleans the panels off and dusts them off and they can go again. And the motors that made it go forward are burned out. They didn't last. So they drive it backwards and all the arms still work and they're doing tests still today. So, and they're amazed that it's still going. These are our NASA scientists, the smartest guys. Next slide. It fails easily. Well, I don't think there's anything around that has a 25-year warranty to be at 85% of its original power. They do degrade. That means that they're like a battery. They get lower and lower over time. We already have panels made that are not allowed to be imported to the U.S. They're made in Taiwan. They're called SIG panels. They don't degrade. They don't have
SIG or STIG?
SIG, C-I-G. I found these at the trade show in San Francisco. They still display them because this is what we should be building today. These will last 1,000 years.
Wow.
They have no cadmium or bad stuff in them. They have no soldered joints in them. They do not get hot spots. They provide energy for the same size panel. They're far superior, but we do what we always do is we invest heavily into industry to build things as fast as possible. We do it the cheapest way, and we use the crummiest chemicals that you can possibly find. If we change to this now, we'd be so far ahead of the game, and this is what we should be building.
Yeah. Is it possible to, I presume that it's impossible to use solar panels without batteries?
No. They'll generate all day long, but you won't have any energy at night.
Right.
We'll get into that a little later on. You can hold your questions till the end. We'll get through the information, and unless it's so pressing you can't
So
remember what we're going to say.
okay, let's see.
Yep.
Can one locate them anywhere or?
Taiwan, you can build. They go all over the world outside of the U.S. The oil companies and utility companies won't allow them to be imported here. They don't want them because that definitely would cap the industries that we've invested heavily in. So, I've heard people say it doesn't pencil out. And I always say, well, whose pencil are you using, Edison's or the oil companies? Because you got to be using one of those when you think about it. You get 30% back on a rebate from the federal government still. And the only reason you wouldn't get it back is if you don't pay taxes. If you have a rental property, and it's a second place, obviously, they're going to make you do it on a different format. You actually put it on a 2-year what they call it, depreciation schedule, which I did in Mars because we have a vacation rental. One of ours, we have 3 properties, all with solar. We haven't paid for any electric for a year and a half. We are paying the $5.55 they just bucked up on the fee they're charging them, which will go to $10. So basically, you still recoup your money on a business side, and you'll see people putting them on apartment buildings because it does pay, and then that investor, when he pays for his panels, can actually sell that energy to his tenants and make money. And it's a write-off to him too. So there's so many ways to play with the tax code to get it to work for you. I can't afford it, and the HERO program is a way with no money down, your house gets the loan if you qualify, and very few people don't qualify. I've only run into 2 in 2 years that I've been using it. So we'll talk about that. It's actually funding that comes out of PACE funds, and PACE funds were monies that were put away in Clinton's time, way back in whenever he was in office, late 70s, early 80s, I think. And they designated all this money for energy efficiencies. Well, solar was one of them. They got put on the White House at that time. They got removed by Reagan, I think. And Bush put them back on, which was really easy. But anyway, this money was put aside, and then our banking system got involved and said, oh, if you loan on that, it'll put us in second position. So they told all the banks below them, this is the federal level banks, that if you loan on these loans, we won't guarantee the loan. So Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, Hero killed a program that was put out there to do exactly this. And that money got huge, so now it's still available. We have, instead of millions of dollars, you have billions of dollars in this fund to pay the rebates. And loan to do it. You do pay the money back. It isn't a gift or a grant. You do pay it back. But as you'll see later on, it actually pays for itself. You get it for a way lesser cost than you think. And panels themselves have dropped from $8 to $15 a kW is what they rated at. I put them in for $3.85 for the best system you can get. And we'll talk about that later. Next slide. It all started with fire. Remember fire? Discovery of fire. We started burning things. What do we burn first? Wood. So 1620, well, that tree area and green area. And then we discovered fire way back when, and industrialization began, and we started burning more and more. And colonization occurred. And look what happened to the East Coast now. This is 1920. This isn't today. I don't want to show you today because all that's really left is like national parks. And people wonder why we should have more national parks is because of this. This used to be a forester, by the way. We had mesquites and scrub oak, and it was pretty thick. And the mining and the cattle operations took it all out. But actually, California's doing pretty good compared to everywhere else. California and Florida by Canada. But that's the bare truth of it. And so they wanted to do more with industry after we got into the 1800s and started the Industrial Revolution. So they were running out of wood. They needed to find something to burn hotter to do more metal work. So we moved on to coal. Next slide. So I did this little chart, and these 3 areas here are what transition deals with: is peak oil, climate change, and local economy. I went to see Al Gore's thing on Inconvenient Truth. And afterwards, everybody in the audience, kids especially, were saying, well, what can I do? What can I do? And nobody knew. They just could tell you the problem and how it was happening and what was causing it and where we were going with 350. We're at 420 now or something?
Yeah.
And we're way over tipping point, per se. Well, in our studies, we found out that the single biggest problem is electrical generation. It accounts for 25% around the world of climate change gases, and in the US it's 30% of climate change gases. So one big thing could make a big difference real fast if we did it like Germany did it in 8 years or so. So I decided that I'm going to jump in with 2 feet, and I put mine on my own house, and it took me like 3 or 4 days with my brother, and we were learning, and it was amazingly like, wow, it's like putting in a stove. It's not that hard. So I started doing it because I felt that was the biggest thing I could do to offset climate change. And I really like turning on the system and watching the meter go this way back there. We get a beer, some of my friends, and we'll sit down and sit in a chair and watch it happen. There goes it!
New age entertainment.
Take that, Edison. Anyway, so we started with the discovery of fire down here. We deforested. And we're still deforesting today. I mean, what we see today is nothing compared to what happened in the past. Then we moved on to plant animals, which was whales and palm oil and things like that. We're doing candles and oil lanterns and stuff. Medieval and then industrial age. We had trouble with the computer, so you're getting like an old copy of misspelled bad stuff, so I apologize. Anyway, that's that high tech I can never get with. So we were looking for better ways to burn. So coal came around. We used a bunch of coal. We still use coal today. Remember now, it's just called clean coal. clean natural gas, clean nuclear. It's just all clean. How did it get so clean? Then we moved on to fossil fuels. Oh yeah, big boom. This is what our interests are protecting around the world right now, is fossil fuel. These companies make billions. Why don't they protect their interests? Why do we have to get stuck with that bill? That makes me a little crazy, and I don't like putting our children on the line to protect corporations' interests.
Because it's not officially a war for oil.
Well, yeah, but we know that. Okay, so we get up to here, we're into crude oil, and then solar pops up in the 70s, and basically it started off pretty good. People were really interested, and then it got stifled, and then just got killed. It got stuffed out for a while. Next slide. So I want to learn about the Industrial Revolution, so I went to the pre-industrial age, and I looked at this and I go, oh, that was horrible. People growing food, and they're taking a nap and having a picnic. It was hard work, but it was seasonal. You brought in your crop, you put it in the barn. It was kind of a nice way of life. And then the Industrial Revolution, next slide, happened, and people moved to cities. Life changed big time. You had working conditions, living conditions, urbanization, public health and life expectancy. You had plagues, you had all kinds of people moved to big cities, remember? Like LA. You had child labor, big time. This was coal mines for that energy that they're using at the time. Working class families, the women went to work. Emerging middle class, but wealth and income began to change and shift drastically all over the world, not just the US. Really started with Britain. Britain was the first colonization. And I always found it interesting that our forefathers, like George Washington, was a traitor and an insurgent to the British government. And yet we go to other places and we call them terrorists and insurgents, and but I think in their homeland, trying to get someone out of their homeland, they're considered, patriots. So I don't like that we go around the world to protect our interests when our interests should be here at home, taking care of our children, going to school and health care and taking care of people. I'm about people in general. Next slide. So here's transportation back then. It was pretty slow. It wasn't fast by any means. But again, it didn't look terrible according to these pictures in the Times. And they got the job done. Next picture. So then began the Industrial Revolution and the billowing and the smoke. And we started with burning wood, and then we went to coal on these guys. And the next slide. It changed. So before, most people are making their living as farmers. They used hand tools. There's a lot of different changes, but afterwards they made their livings in factories, companies, industrial cities. Towns grow up. The city dwellers live in multi-story, crowded tenements. Factory workers work long hours. I mean, the whole gauntlet of what we have today, basically. Next slide. So we move on to the next stage. And the next slide, please. So when oil came about, we went to fossil fuel. From the Beverly Hillbillies, you shoot the gun and the oil comes bubbling right out of the ground. That was the beginning of the oil. And the water. Remember the water used to be in lakes and on the top and the surface? And then what happened? We pumped it all out, we used it all up. So when we talk about peak oil, people go, oh, we still have oil exploration to do. I go, no, we know where everything is, because right now we're squeezing rocks, we're fracking, we're going 6,000 deep in the Gulf of Mexico to get oil out of underwater caverns. We're doing bad behavior. And how many holes can you punch into the earth without affecting it geologically? I mean, you have to think about that. There's thousands of wells. There's tons of this stuff going on, and things are pumping into the ground that are polluting the groundwater.
Not to mention Oklahoma's having its first earthquakes.
Yep. Punch enough holes in it, you're going to cause something to happen. You're going to make rifts. And if you're dynamiting underground to frack, you're kind of blowing. It's like stick 1,000 needles in your arm, and what do you think is going to happen to your arm eventually? Wow. Next slide. Anyway, basically it's all on the surface. So what we have to do to understand solar is how we consume energy today. So the first slide is, and this is called the energy duct. Do you know why? Looks like a duck, it must be a duck. So it's time of day, down at the bottom, 2400 clock, the road here is midnight, going to the end. So coming out of the nighttime, everybody quits using, they go to bed, they sleep, and then they get up in the morning and they go to work. So this is 2013, and then here midday was kind of where they didn't want you to use energy because it went up a little bit, and then they get home, turn on their TVs, their, you know, air conditioners, their heaters, whatever's going on at the time, and then it spikes. So this time here is peak time, you know, from 2 till 6, right? That's when it's hot, you got home, you want the air on, you want things working. Well, what happened? People started doing solar back here, big time. And look what happened to the belly of the duck. Here's 2015. Look where it's going to be in 2020. People keep going at the rate of a few years ago. This is done in 2013, expanding it out. So the belly of the duck is falling. So there's a big change in how we use energy now. So what does that mean? It means we need energy here in the morning for a little bit, and then we don't need energy midday anymore, and we need a whole bunch of energy down here. How many heard that the rates are going up with Edison? You got your letter in the mail, and they're balancing it out and charging these people more and the solar people more, and it's supposed to be fair. Well, it really isn't, because what they're saying, if you go to the website, is the people that use the most energies are going to get breaks, and the people like us that generate energy, clean energy, are going to get penalized with this $10 a month thing. That's what they're saying. Because we were bad and we aren't using their dirty energy. So I'm generating clean energy and I'm giving it to them at a wholesale price of 3.5 cents. It costs them between 4 to 6 cents to dirty generate. And yet they want to keep dirty generating and not do the other. So I'm saying if we put it on our rooftops, eventually who are they going to sell their dirty energy to? And then there's other reasons besides that are coming. The other thing is where you put it on your rooftop makes a difference now. It used to be all south facing. Put it on the south, generate all day long. But we don't need it midday anymore. So now east and west, morning and evening are where you should put a little bit on the east, a whole bunch on the west, peak time. They're also charging you more now for peak time. If you use your air conditioner from 2 to 6, they're going to penalize you and charge you more. We're also dropping from 5 tiers to 4 to 3, so you'll be in the higher tiers faster. So you'll be paying the highest price quicker than you did a few years ago. And this is already happening everywhere. That's their plan, is to make people pay more quicker and pay more at peak time.
That's just criminal.
So if I have it on my house and I'm generating a whole bunch in the west, and mine is all west, guess what? This is very valuable real estate when you position them on your roof. They're still going to need south for manufacturing. And I'll show you why when we get later on. Next slide. Does anybody understand the duck? It's cute, isn't it? All right, so here we are, electrical generation today. So you got a power plant. This could be nuclear, this could be a coal burner, or the new clean burning natural gases. This good one from fracking. They don't talk about how they got the energy out of the ground and fracked and destroyed environments to do it. So what's missing out of that? What's missing here? What do we have on our dry lake over there? Solar farms. That's the other way they want to protect their game, basically. So what I'm saying is, I got it on my roof. My neighbor has it on his roof. This is a company, an industrial company. This is Walmart. They don't have hardly any on their roof. Whole roof should be solar, as big as that place is. But if we put it on our roofs here, then all we need to do is go to here and move it around here in small local communities, and we don't push it. Do you remember the transmission costs on your bill? That's push. That's new Edison trucks. That's why they buy new trucks every year. They make more money on their transmission costs than they do the regulated energy that they're selling you. Because they can only sell you the energy for this much. It's regulated by the public utility, just like the $10 they're going to charge us now because we're clean generating. That's regulated. But their trucks, their transmission lines, these big monsters, the DRECP that everybody's fighting, that's new transmission lines from Hoover Dam to LA. $68 billion they want to spend to put more wires up so they can build solar farms and these new generation plants and push energy all over the West Coast. That's the plan. It isn't just for us. It's going to New Mexico, thousands of miles away, and those people have to pay for the transmission costs to get it from here, because this is where the sun is. The sun doesn't shine in New Mexico, and it doesn't shine in Utah or Nevada. It only shines right here, in our little neighborhood. Well, I'm saying we don't need any of this. We can keep the existing. It's big enough to take the push to LA and places like that that need it. But we don't need to spend natural resources that we really don't have much of anymore building more transmission. They want to because this is big bucks. This is big bucks to build one of these. $184 billion to build a new natural gas plant of any scale for a large city. It's expensive. All we really need is local small systems, and we have to learn to build software that moves it around locally and takes more back than it puts out. This is all about putting out. This isn't about taking any back. That's why they're having conniptions about us doing solar. They're having to take back more than they ever wanted to. Next slide. Does that look cheap? You know these guys?
Siemens.
Yeah.
They're in Desert Hospital.
That's what they want to build. Do you know who owns Siemens? Koch brothers. Do you know what else Siemens makes? Your traffic lights. Why do they keep putting in traffic lights in the middle of the desert to stop you when there's not much traffic? Because you start and stop, you burn more fuel. This goes way back. I used to work at Firestone, and we got the first smog equipment and dynos in the country. First computers, too. I actually got a mainframe in my store. It was kind of cool to grow up in that era. I was going to save all this paper, computers, and then I ended up with 5 times. You know what I'm saying. Anyway.
You could do it faster, though.
Yeah, for the bean counters, not for me cashing people out at the end of the day, because I had to do it manually and then put it in the computer. So these are what they want to build. This is the infrastructure and those big power line things. This is what they make their money on. One set of traffic lights, just so you know, is anywhere from $250,000 to $500,000 out of our pocket. It costs $50,000 to $85,000 to maintain it and the electricity and the bulbs. And they're not meant to control the flow of traffic. They're meant to stop and start traffic, period. I used to live in Huntington Beach, or Fountain Valley, and I was a car route paper boy. I used to drive my Hemacoot up and down Beach Boulevard from PCH to Whittier and back, and I never hit a red light because they timed the lights. If you went the speed limit, you hit every light green. They could do that today, but it doesn't wear out tires and brakes and engines and cars and burn fuel. In fact, after you go 35 miles an hour, the newer cars are 25, you put nothing out the tailpipe but water. Your car burns so clean today with the catalytic converters and everything. So if you can keep cars moving, they're not starting and stopping, they'll not only last longer and be a better value than they are today, you won't put any emissions out. But starting and stopping is still relevant because that's an economy builder to these corporations. And I worked for Firestone for a lot of years. So I'm guilty too. Next slide. So this, or this. Now this is the kind of home that the solar decathlon kids are building. And they're great. They're really cool. They're beautiful. They got neat systems. They got solar on them. They got patios. They're just gorgeous. I mean, people would buy this. It's cool. They got some, gardening going on here, but they're not taking in passive solar. They're not taking in biofiltration systems, gray water systems, all kinds of things. These kids are still being taught to buy expensive, cool things, like a box that converts everything and does everything for $65,000. A house that size that they built, they were given a budget of $200,000. And a lot of them spent it. I mean, they were cool things. They were actually really, really neat. Some of them were great. But, next slide. That is a little better, isn't it? You have an earthen wall going to the north so the cold wind never penetrates the building. This in the summertime, or in the wintertime, the sun drops down here, shines through here. This is actually a greenhouse where you grow your food. It's an atrium area. This is an earthship if you're not knowing. This is a cistern. Collects all the water off the roof, runs into it. This doesn't have any heating and air conditioning system. This runs on 12-volt systems like a camper. This is self-sustainable. It doesn't need much of anything to keep it going. It uses geothermal, it uses passive solar. You open windows here and there and the air comes through. So why aren't we teaching our kids this? This is old. The guy that does this is Mike Reynolds out of New Mexico, and these are legal there, along with black water filtration systems, standalone solar. They're not connected to the utilities. They pulled his license for 5 years because he built these in tracks. And the utilities went to the government in New Mexico and said, we don't want this. They have to hook up. And he said no. And so they pulled his license. And then he went to Malaysia during the tsunamis, and he did volunteer work because he couldn't work at home. And he built and changed their building codes to match buildings like this that collected rainwater, because all they had was a pile of rubble after the islands got hit. And because of that effort, when he got back home, they reinstated his license, and now he's building these, and they're perfectly legal and they work. And I do a lot of my ideas based on this same kind of stuff. Next slide. So today's model is farm solar energy, fossil fuel fired plants, and nuclear power requiring huge weak infrastructure and wasteful consumption. Traffic lights we talked about. I don't like light pollution either. I like seeing the stars out here, so we work on that note too. It creates energy dependence and insecurity for the country, the communities, and individuals at the same time. If you have solar on your roof, you have energy all the time. So basically, the way the system is built, if you grid tie, and you have to grid tie to get the 30% rebate. They won't let you not do it because the federal government, not the state and local government, wants that energy put into the system to run manufacturing. Because you can't put enough on a company's roof to run all of its manufacturing processes. So they need that energy. And they can get it cheap and cleanly off the rooftops. So distributed is far better because when you put in your breakers, they go at the bottom of the panel and Edison comes in the top. So you make your energy here, it goes into your panel. You use everything you need to run your house all day long right here, and only the excess goes out to Edison. When I first did mine, I have a monitor on it called an Enlighten computer, and it tells me what I'm generating. And I was generating this, and then Edison was only giving me credit for this. I'm like, Edison's stealing my electricity. I'm losing 300-400 kW a month. What's going on? And then I figured it out. I was using that. That's how much I was using, and because I was over-generating, I only saw what went out the other side that they picked up. So that was a discrepancy, and that was pretty cool to figure out, because I really thought they were screwing me. So they're still working at it really hard. So on my roof, I'm secure. What they do today too is they do things like fire codes force your panels down into lower areas on the roof. You got to be 3 feet from the peak instead of overhanging the peak, which will keep you in the sun longer, generating longer. They make you less efficient by what codes are in place. But we're working on it. I've actually got several things changed with the county. The permitting process is down from 6 to 8 weeks to on the counter. It just happened. I went in today, and that happened because I went down to my dad's house, and I said, I want to do solar. And they said, do you want to do it on the counter? I'm like, yeah, because I've been waiting weeks here to get it done. And so I took their format and I brought it back to county, and I'm kind of on a first name basis with some of these guys because we have meetings about opening up our department 2 days a week instead of 1 day a week because you can't get anything done. And I showed them this, and I said, why can't you guys do this? I mean, this is a no-brainer. Every one I do is pretty much the same. It's just a different number of panels, and maybe a panel upgrade if it's too small, and that's it. There's not any differences. And they did it. The county is reacting. We're down from 6 to 8 weeks to on the counter, maybe a week if it has to have something special done to it. They're listening to what some people say. So that's one good thing in our county's favor. I'll give them that.
Yeah.
Yeah, they do it once in a while. But as an individual, you have energy on your roof all the time. So if the earthquake happens, power lines fall down, which that's not going to happen, right? Oh, excuse me, somebody hits one telephone pole, you don't have power for hours or maybe days. It's very weak infrastructure what we have. It's very susceptible. We had 234 outages from that lightning storm. It took Edison days to get that back online in places that were far out. All the transformers were getting struck. Our infrastructure is super weak. We've never been really attacked on this continent, but when we go to war, the first thing we hit is their power plants and their water. You know what I'm talking about. We do this all the time. You cripple the country that way, and that's how you get in and you win the war.
Just about the susceptibility, that last one, or recently, Chai, next door to the Thai restaurant, lost a $3,000 freezer unit.
No,
because,
that was a different time he lost that.
yeah, a different time. Still, he lost $3,000
Right.
in the fridge because the power was out for a few days.
So we'll get into how this will work for you very shortly in the future. So the next one. So we could choose this. This is Washington, D.C. This is a parking structure with solar all over the roof. Our government gets it. The county building has solar on it. The school's getting solar. They want to cover our airport with solar, which I'm totally against. I don't want them to do that. I don't like farms. I don't like transmission costs. I like it on our roofs. Take away the excess, use it wherever you want, and charge those people the transmission costs if we're the premier area to be producing. We don't need everybody's roof. We only need 20 to 25% of the rooftops in America to provide enough energy for the next 200 years. It's free, it's available. What you're buying, these things are merely collectors. They don't make it. The photons from the sun are the energy that makes it. They just collect it, convert it into electrons that we use in our houses, and then an inverter makes it from DC voltage to AC voltage. Next slide. Remember know this one? This is Ivanpah. This is the one on the way out to Vegas. These are all mirrors. This is one that fries the birds as they fly by. They shoot to this tower and they heat the cooling tower, and that runs a generator. This has already failed. This is 5 square miles. The CEO came on board and said it was the wrong way to go. It's not the right thing. They have trouble with generation. They destroyed 5 square miles of desert habitat to build it. It fries birds. The really sad one and the kind of the ironic one is, you know what the Intaglios are?
The petroglyphs on
The ones you see
gas
from,
line.
when you fly over in space or in the sky, when you look down, the Native Americans along the river built them. And this covered Pele and the sun.
Oh, so sad. And it contributes to global warming too.
Big time. You're generating heat off these mirrors to heat that tower. You're focusing all those mirrors on that tower right there to create a lot of heat. And anything that flies through there is barbecued. I don't care what it is. It's gone. It's very dangerous to work in a place like that too.
And that one in Daggett, is that still going?
That's actually the original one. That was put in the 50s. That's still operational. That's what this one is based on. Anyway, wrong way, because now it's way out here and they got to get that energy to Las Vegas. They got to push it to LA. We're having water troubles. I don't know if you guys know, 1,685 feet is the height on the other side of the Hoover Dam where it quits generating. It's going to quit generating anytime. There's no water behind it. And they're putting a new pipeline in to suck more water to Las Vegas because they need those golf courses to grow. So things are changing. Next slide. We don't need these. That's a nuclear plant. Don't need it. They're still pushing these to build new ones. It takes 20 years to get one online. We could be at 200 years worth of energy in 10 years with solar, just putting it on our roofs in the right place.
There's a line item on your SCE bill also.
Sure.
Decommission.
Well, Germany's decommissioning too this year. I think that's amazing.
Yeah.
My whole roof, why not? I might, why can't it be my roof? It could be waterproof. It's glass, it would never wear out. I could catch water off of it. Clean water, actually drinkable water. Makes a lot of sense. They do make those panels already. I saw them at the trade show. Next slide. So, what you can do, number one, you can create an energy descent plan. I think the biggest one, if you really want to, you know, not have an electric bill one day, that's the part when you say it doesn't pencil out, is you buy your panels, it's like a car payment, you make your car payment for 5, 10, 15, 20 years, Hero will let you about 20 years. When you finish paying, you don't pay anymore. And I'll tell you what's going to happen, it isn't going to be Edison anymore. They're already talking about combining Edison, PG, and everybody into a statewide energy consortium. It'll probably be the governing agency is the one that runs the grid right now, but they only control 15% of it because of all these for-profit public utilities. But they're public utilities. We pay for them in our payments. We support them. What we have to stop is building new infrastructure that we can't afford. And that's one of the biggest problems I see everywhere is all the retiring engineers from all these counties and cities all over the country are speaking up and saying, I came on board, I built this stuff, I did what I was told, I said we need to do these systems, you know, whether it be sewer plants or whatever, but their life is this, and the funding goes on for this long, they're worn out and need replacing before you've paid for them. These huge infrastructure jobs like that Palin Solar thing are horrible on the cost of what we pay. There's a desalinization plant, if you've been reading up on that, down in Carlsbad near San Diego. It does a lot of water based on what a desalination plant today can do, but it runs on natural gas, horrifically expensive to operate. It does 50 million gallons a day, but that's only 2% of San Diego's needs. 2%. It's insane the amount of energy that uses. It's insane the amount of energy that shale oil uses to squeeze oil out of rock. 60% of what they burn to get the process, to get that little bit of oil that they want to run through the pipeline, the Keystone Pipeline down here. That's tar sands. They got to do a lot of processing, and that's a lot of climate change gases. We don't need the oil if we do rooftop. Next. Oh, back to, can we go back one? Yeah. So your energy independence is really important. You're secure. So if you went to war, if you had an earthquake, it's on my roof still. What you do need is not a whole bank of batteries. You need a battery to push up against the inverters to get them to switch on. Edison and all of the powers that be made them this way because it's what you're going to electrocute a lineman if you have this power going into the grid. Well, you have a disconnect. You have a smart meter, which I'm beginning to think are not good either. They hurt people. The EMFs coming off them, they're microwave, and I think they're unhealthy. But the smart meter can shut your grid, your panels down. The disconnect can shut your panels down, and the panels shut your panels down. The actual inverters will shut your panel down, or inverter if you do it that way. So there's 3 ways here to turn off your panels. You can get expensive systems called Outback to go to batteries, but they're expensive. I'm telling people wait, because what will happen is you'll buy an electric car. I'm going to get a Tesla when it comes out, maybe 2, and that will be my battery storage for my house. I'll plug my car into my house, my solar panels will charge my car. At nighttime, my car will run my house. Those are batteries. The best you're going to buy in the world because it's the newest, best plant coming out. That's what will happen. That's what it will be. And then the no-brainer to me that they still have a problem with, and I don't understand why, is that solar panel should be all over that car. You don't plug it in, you just drive it and park it, and it's charging all day long in the sun. You don't have to really plug it in except to top it off. That's how it should be. I mean, the one on Mars is still working real good. We can get these things to work too. So that's your energy independence. You do have to wait a little while. Mr. Musk is pushing so many things forward, it's mind-blowing, and the guy is doing it all by himself because nobody else is helping, I'll tell you that. This is my electric bill on my rental property. I made 287 kW, actually I made 538, we used 251, and that's my credit. I paid $1.71, that's the old grid fee. Now it's $10. Because they need money more than anybody else. They just make billions, but they gotta have a few more billion. Next one, you can see here's my month. So this is when we switched it on. This is all negative. I generated that whole time. So I'm putting more back than I take out. The reason I'm able to do that is I built it according to their specifications, but I told them I'm getting an electric car one day. I took out my propane stove and put in an electric stove. I put in electric baseboard heaters. I don't use the central forced air heating because it's inefficient. I room by room heat the house. You do things like that, and then you put in night lights. This is a nightlight bulb. It's an LED. Most night lights are 7 watts. Everybody knows that. This one uses 1 and puts out 7. So you can run 7 night lights with one of these all night long for the cost of what you're paying to run one now. They just came out with stick lamps at Home Depot. You get an 8-pack of 60-watt daylight bulbs. Mom loves them. They're good for your eyes because it's really daylight, not cool white or one of those weird colors that doesn't really exist in the world. We made them. And so if you pull out those in your entire house, you can knock 200 watts off of your usage of electricity. Then you start doing this. Well, when I'm doing this, if I go to the next page, I can see what I'm getting paid. I'll probably make over $1,000 on 3 houses in the energy, and I'll be able to pay for some of my panels with that money. So part of your energy descent plan is to find ways to lower your cost as you move along. Change your system to all electric, get away from burning anything, propane, because burning is the problem. I tell everybody I'm a solar, not a burner. That's the new way to think. Next. So here's the generation box. So we put $243 in there that month, and we're up to $341 for the year. This was months ago. We're getting close to $1,000 between the 3 houses. And I run vacation rental trailers and at my mom's place, and we're positive on that one too. So you can go up to 6 kW. Edison can't stop you. They can ask you questions, but then you just say, I'm getting a car, and I'm doing this, and I'm doing, you just have, they call it justification. They gave me a real hard time. They gave Bobby first a real hard time. But he called me the other day, and we put his on his cargo container. It's kind of a cool thing. Took him like 2 weeks to weld up all the metal up there to get him on there. It's Bobby. You got Bobified, I call it. But it'll never blow away unless that container goes with it. Anyway, you can be getting paid just like the solar farms. You could invest into this technology and get paid rather than paying out. You can pay for your system faster. Return on investment today has dropped down. In my price, it's about 4 to 5 years. You'll be making money. If you finance it with Hero for 20 years, you drop your payments like car payments. If you go 5 years, it's a bigger payment. 10 years is a little bit more. I did 10 because I didn't want to owe on them for 20 years. But the sweet thing about it, it's on your property tax bill. It doesn't affect your credit. It does nothing to do with your credit other than they will check your credit to make sure that you pay your bills. And you can't be late on your property taxes for a year, prior to taking the loan out. And I always tell everybody it is a bond lien. Anything on your property tax is a lien, but it isn't a lien unless you don't pay the bill. Okay? But everything on there, the school board fees and all that stuff, those are called bond liens. If it goes on your property tax bill, they're telling you that if you don't pay this bill, we will be in your house. But if you don't pay the bill to the loan company, you'll get a zillion phone calls and they'll drive you crazy and they want their money too. It's the same thing, just a different way. Next slide. So $1.52, this is our house at home. That's what we paid. Actually, we didn't pay anything because we were over generating so much, they said, don't even pay us. So when you turn on your system, they call that a PTO day, a permit to operate. They don't review your bill month to month other than to send you a statement of where you're at. You have to look at that second page to really see where you're at, the generation versus what you used at night. So there's the thing that you change in your energy descent plan is you don't use things at night anymore because you're buying their energy and you're not using yours. So run your dishwasher midday, remember the duck, belly of the duck, midday, cheap energy, even yours. That's when you want to use it because then you're not hurting the grid. You run it at peak time, even though you're generating your own, you're helping out kind of the world by leaving it in there in the pool at peak time. But midday is a great time to run everything. Now their way, that's the worst time. They want you to run it at night. That's when they say their generation is cheaper. But then I wonder why they're leaving all these lights on out in the middle of the desert, in the middle of nowhere, and parking lots and all that stuff, wasting energy. Next slide. And this is this is Mom's house. So she paid $1.16. So don't have to pay Edison if you don't want to. So you're not paying them, you're taking the money you used to pay them and you're buying your panels with it. And if you pay a little bit more, you can get paid. So you kind of almost offset it, and then when you figure you're getting 30%, 1/3 back from the federal government in a rebate, you just drop the whole cost of the whole scenario way, way down to where you're not paying very much at all. In fact, I think you go upside down in a lot of cases, depending on how big a system you build. And I guarantee you, if they gave you 30% off a car, you'd sell 50 billion cars in 2 days. So here they are giving you 30% off of something that really pays you back. The car doesn't. You drive it off a lot and it's worth $3 grand less than you paid for it at least, if not more. And then after you drive it for 2 years, it's not worth anything. Whereas these add appreciation to your house, and it's usually full price. So if you put $15,000 worth of solar panels on your house, I charge $385. The real estate companies are adding $4 value when they do appraisals to anyone that has solar on the house, and it helps the house sell faster because people are afraid of doing it. Even though it's simple, they don't want to do it themselves. They want to buy it done. And so a house with solar on it right now, not a lease. Leases are negative, detrimental, because they're bad deals. And I won't do a lease. I want you to get the rebate. I want you to get down to where you don't pay anybody anything for your energy and your energy secure. Because that's the right way and that's how it should be. Next slide. So stop burning natural gas, propane, wood, coal. Quit smoking. Anything that's burning is causing the problems. Imagine how clean the air would be just if everybody quit smoking for 1 day. Think of all the cigarettes that light up every second of every day. It's incredible. That's burning. So be a solar, not a burner. Next. So this is my enlightenment report. These are my panels on my roof. This is actually my house. This is the main house. There's a vent pipe, so we couldn't put one there. And this is the garage. And this is where my skylight is that I put in so I can look at the stars at night laying in my bed. So this is telling me what it's generating right now. This is telling me how much energy I made since I turned my system on. And this is probably 2-3 months. I'm at like 24 megawatts of energy off my little bitty roof in less than 2 years. And I'm just me, one little bitty guy, and I'm using my energy. I'm not paying Edison anymore, I'm sending them energy. So what's really cool is they tell you what I did that month offset 1,619 pounds of carbon, and that's the equivalent of 19 full-grown trees. So you have to plant 19 trees full-grown to not offset that much carbon in 1 month. That's pretty cool. And this is my generation for 1 day, 7 days. And I give you the system that most guys won't give you. And we'll get into inverters and microinverters and what the difference is and why I use this. But this is the main reason why I use this. There's a monitored system here with a microinverter under each panel. Not only generates more, it gives you reports like this, and it self-diagnoses itself. If you get an inverter, a big one, they're huge heat sinks. They're only guaranteed 8 to 10 years. Microinverters are little ones. They're up under the panel in the shade. Air's blowing through here, cooling it off. They're guaranteed 25 years, and they'll last 25 years or longer. They're very simple. In about the 2 years I've been doing it, I've had 1 inverter failure on a new system. And it was brand new when I put it in, it didn't work. And it told me it didn't work. I turned it on, and out of 30 panels, only 29 reported in. I knew which one it was. Now, if you put on an unmicroinverted system, you don't know which one it is. You've got to hire somebody to go through and diagnose your system. Bobby had a 10-year-old system on his house, and it took him 3.5 months to diagnose it. And then they found out that 85% of the panels, which were BP panels from 10 years ago, were no good.
Oh.
They had to test every panel, go back to the inverter, and do this whole scenario to find out that basically all of his system wasn't even generating anymore. And he called me last month and he goes, Doc, I go, yeah, what's wrong now? You know, because he always has something going on with his old system. He goes, no, my electric bill was 11 cents. Without my other panels generating. I go, well, you're going to make money then. As soon as he turns on that 2,500 kW that he's got that isn't generating. But they're telling him 6 months to a year to replace them, or they want to pay him off to do his own system quicker. So they're not really following their warranty stuff very well at all. That's BP for you. Next slide. Anyway, I love this. It's great. This fracking, you guys know how this works. We don't need to do this. We don't. This is awful, bad behavior. We don't need to do it. We can do solar and forget this. Next one. So solar panels are merely collectors. The energy from the sun, photons, is free every day. It's outside your door all day long. I always was interested in mitigation with lawyer talk and stuff like that. The act of mitigation is lessening the force or intensity of something unpleasant as wrath, pain, grief, or extreme circumstances. With solar farms, with a lot of things we do, there's 23 lines in the county's code for a solar farm of mitigation. Dust, wildlife corridors cut off, you name it, there's all these things that they decided are problems. And that's after eliminating about 36 more. When you put it on your roof, guess how many lines of mitigation there's? 0. Actually, you get benefits. Now your roof is covered, it's in the shade. You're getting shade from, you're overstoring your structure and getting shade from it. Does everybody know what overstoring is? It's this really cool thing that Mr. Reynolds came up with. But say your solar panel. When we put them on, they're not right on the roof, they're up about 4 inches. So, say this is your roof, you're sitting up above the roof like this. So you have this air space here. So sun's hitting this, it's absorbing a lot of that UV and stuff, and their air is blowing through here, it's cooling your microinverter. But you're really shading your roof. Now your roof will last longer if it's a comp roof, because it's in the shade. Your house will be cooler, you're getting another benefit, and you're getting solar energy off of it. So you're getting stacked functions, as we say in permaculture. If you put that on the ground, which I won't do, you're down in the dirt. You ever take a bucket of water and has a little dirt in it? Where's the dirt? Down on the bottom, this is clear up here on the top. Same thing in the air. The dirt's down here. Higher up on the roof, second story is even better. You're in the sun longer, you're getting more generation, they're staying cleaner. So, far better way to go is on your roof. No mitigation, no moving parts. You see any moving parts? Anybody? Windmills? How many moving parts do you think's in a windmill? How much carbon is in the footing on a windmill? All that cement and rebar? Actually, I have a picture of a, that's probably not in this one.
No,
It's in the other one. Anyway, I was driving down the 10 freeway about a month ago, and one of the new generation windmill blades went by. It had a tractor axle at the back, and a semi was pulling it. It was 350 feet long. One blade. And I was looking at that going, that's carbon composite. I mean, that blade had to cost $500,000, just one.
And most of them are made in India.
Yeah. Well, this one's going somewhere up north. And I was just blown away because I got my picture and I took it and I couldn't even get it all in there, man. It was so long.
That's over more than a football field.
That's it. That's the new generation. That's what, and those are subsidized. That's why they're still building them. And quite honestly, wind is solar. Wind is created by inversion from the sun. Water is created on this planet by the sun. Next, oh wait, we didn't finish. They don't wear out. I mean, they're guaranteed 25 years. These panels will probably last 200 years. They'll degrade. They'll get weaker and weaker and weaker over time, but they won't wear out. They'll probably be down to half in about 60, 70 years. And then you can take them off and put them on your shed, and the new ones will be this big and do everything this does, if they start investing in it. You get the 30% rebate, so you get $4,500 back on a $15,000 system. And that comes in the next tax year. What's really cool about the Hero loan is you do the loan, if you do it before the end of the year, like from June to December, they won't even put it on your bill until the following year. So you have nothing due electrically or property tax wise until the following year. The next year you do your taxes, you get this $4,500 back. Hero will let you plunk that down on the loan and reduce it. So now you got a lower payment, and they'll actually refigure the whole loan. See if a bank will do any of that. I guarantee you they wouldn't even give you a loan for 15 or 20 years. It'll be 7 probably. Next slide. So this is the Hero financing. It's instant approval. It's based on your property value. There's no credit requirements. It's 100% cost financed if you have enough money available. There's 5, 10, 15, 20 years available. It's transferable to the new owner. Everybody else says, you know, I don't want to do solar, I'll die before it ever pays itself off. I hear that one all the time. Well, okay, if you do 20 years and you sell out in 10, whoever buys it will finish paying for it. You only paid for the 10 years you had it. It's another thing about it. It works like that. The next owner will pick up the tab to finish paying for the system. There are some lawsuits going on because realtors didn't inform the people that it was on the property tax bill, and they appreciated the house for the full value. See how that works? You got to kind of be a little honest when you do these things. They finance up to 10% of the property value. My dad owned his home, and they gave him $120,000 approval in like 2 minutes on the phone. It was kind of crazy. And he bought 15 panels. We put 15 panels on his place, and he's down in Fountain Valley. It's a little cloudier, but that'll wipe out his bill. He won't ever pay another bill. And the interest is tax deductible. That's another benefit. When it's on your property taxes, you write the interest off, and you almost go negative interest rate on these loans when you figure out all these things and you're not paying Edison. You put all this stuff into a formula, and you're really not paying that much. At 20 years, the interest rate is 8% because it's 20 years. It's a long time. It drops as you get into the lower rates. But it's very comparable to banks. Banks put points up front and hide it. They do all kinds of funky things. So they're really not that big a difference when you look at them. Next slide. Remember the balls on the lake up there that Lily put all these balls on there to stop evaporation, and you have to turn the balls once. Did you hear about that in the paper? They spent $22 million with it? Some ridiculous amount of money. They have floating solar panels that could have done the same thing, and they could have got some generation out of it. Next slide. There's an International Society solar that's out there. They're worldwide, and I picked up their card when I was up in San Francisco because I thought it was kind of cool that they're doing that. Next. Sopel hot water heaters. I just bought 2 of these. I'm going to test them. They are a 52-gallon water heater that works on pressure only. You don't need electrical inputs, electrical or propane. You put it on your roof, and it will heat water and have it on hand all day long and well into the evening. You may not have it in the morning. If you're one of those people that have to shower in the morning, you'd have to back it up with a tankless or something like that to heat it up then. But you're only using it at that backup point. The rest of the time it's solar, 100%. And like I said, all you do is hook in cold water, take out the hot water, you're done. You don't have to have a holding tank or anything. It actually has a 22-gallon capacity tank that mixes, and then the lines inside itself keep it hot. And there's actually polycarbonate insulated cells in there that keep it hot a long time. And they're reasonable compared to the glycol-based systems now, where you have pumps and timers and you know, you heat the water on the roof and it goes into a coil that heats another tank, and then that tank is backed up by your old tank, and you spend $5,000 to $6,000 on one of those, and these are, I think these are like $3,500 installed, and you get about $2,000 back, about $1,500.
Where are they available?
They're going to be available for me eventually. I'm testing them. I'm making sure it works before I give anybody anything. I've learned my lesson. I'm experimenting on people. But very cool. Also, not made here, made in Austria, Germany. Go next to Germany. Austrian product. Very cool. Next. This is your Helios. This is your waterproof panels. It could be your roof. They actually have rubber seals around them. You put them on, you can catch water off it, and it is your roof. And they can be applied right over your existing roof or right over existing framing. They just have, it's the same kind of glass structure. There's no frame to it. It's the same thing they do in skyscrapers. And these big heavy rubber seals that will last 100 years. But very cool. Next. That's your SIG panel that we were talking about, the one that will last 1,000 years. Wow. The really cool thing is they put out about 35% more energy in the same size, but there's no degradation, no hot spots. That means they don't burn up. They will last longer than we ever will. Probably the society at the rate we're going. Next. These are the ones I installed, Solar World. They're made in Oregon. 100% made in USA. It is a Chinese company. It's kind of hard to not find them in there in bulk. Well, at least they build them here and give jobs here, and that's why I like them and use them.
Right
This
on.
is a 285. In a year and a half to 2 years, ours were 250, so they've gone up 35 watts a panel in less than 2 years without subsidies. Can you imagine what would happen if they took the oil exploration money that they still give oil companies to find oil that's not there
Yeah.
to solar, and how fast we could get to speed and be doing these systems everywhere.
So crazy.
Next panel. There's a structure, carport, it's cantilevered, you can put solar panels on it, you can have a patio. If you don't want to put it on your roof, but people are just ugly, I don't want it on my roof. I had one lady really susceptible to EMF that pulled her smart meter out and was making her heart irregular and all kinds of things. So this is an option to people like that don't want it on their house roof for that reason, but you've got shade, you got an area you could have a picnic under or family outing, and you can park under. And it's only 2 posts, very cool.
The panels put out ELM or electromagnetic energy?
Not really.
Yeah.
Her house wiring gives off more, I didn't want to tell her that.
That's not much.
It's not much because you're going from DC voltage, and we are DC voltage, and we are 75% water, so that's why we're susceptible to picking up EMF. And smart meters are EMF, those are microwaves.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm pulling my mom's out shortly because she's had heart trouble since they put it in.
And you have to pay $10 or $15 extra
Yeah.
for the, but then after
And eventually it'll probably become a lawsuit like everything.
good, but after 3 years, they remove the bill or that charge.
Yeah, they could get rid of the microwave and do it through the wire. They should have done one that went through their own wires and reported into them that way, because we do those in houses for the invoice you uses your house wiring. So. But these are really cool because you can do rainwater harvesting. Overstoring is a big thing to me. When I put in my vacation trailers, I put shade structures that are corrugated. They could be solar. Mine are corrugated, and I catch rainwater off of them. But in the summertime, the sun's up here, right? So here's say that's the trailer, it's overhead. I kick them up to the south like this. The reason I do that is in the winter, the sun drops down here on the south and it shines in and heats the trailer for free. And in the summer, the trailer's in the shade. So all my heating and air conditioning are less and way more. Imagine what Walmart would be like if they overstoried that by 20 feet, put the solar panels up there, and did the same thing. It would be all the roof and air conditioning equipment up there would be in the shade. So you could do smaller stuff because it's not working harder because it's getting heated up. You're generating all that energy on the roof to run all those things. You wouldn't need much, and actually you could probably get net zero on a building like that because you could overstory and go farther out. You do the parking lot even. And in the wintertime, the sun could drop down, shine in, or hit the roof and heat the building. Simple systems that work marvelously. And this is all from Earthship Design. It's been around forever. Cavemen knew this. You go into the caves and get far enough back in there. It's cool, on the hot days. So it's kind of the same thing. You can use geothermal in there too. Anyway.
How's it cost effective on this kind of
Well, when they build a building, they just go up another 20 feet with their posts and the walls and bridge over, and they've got the structure.
Well, I was thinking I could use a carport.
Yeah, they're actually not too bad. I think the span between that one was 20 feet. It'll hold 20 to 24 panels, and it was like 10 to 12 grand installed. It's pretty reasonable, I think, for what you're getting. And that's engineering and everything. You got some pretty good sized footings on 2 posters. But they are super strong in wind, and they're totally all you really need. So, and actually on Hero, if you have enough dollars, they'll cover the structure you're putting it on as part of the system. Your roof can be included too. Hero covers white roofs. They have to be a special treated roof that reflects, but they'll cover roofing repairs. So, next. So earthships. I love these things, man. It's great. We could build any house into it. All you do is do an earthen wall on the north side. This is actually geothermal. Hot air comes in here in the summer, goes into the pipe. We know 12 feet down, you're about 60 degrees. It turns into air-conditioned air, comes up in the building for free. So you open a skylight or a window and you allow it to pass through the house. Now your house is air-conditioned. Conversely, you close this off in the winter. The cold air goes here up over the roof, never penetrates the building. You don't get cold air in. We do flat wall buildings, square boxes. Here comes the winter, you felt it come right through the windows and the walls. I mean, it doesn't matter. I got 2x6 walls that are heavily insulated, it still comes through. So, earthships are built this way on purpose. These are tires, they recycle tires for the retaining wall. They use dead beetle wood beams. Instead of cutting down new trees, they cut down beetle dead trees and just put the whole beam up there, and that's the roof. Living space is basically controlled by opening or closing a vent, what you're pulling through. Convection is what brings a lot of this through on its own. This is a garden area. This is actually a biofiltration field. So your gray water goes out here into this. You plant your garden plants in it. It runs downhill to the other end, and the plants clean all the nitrogen out. And basically at the end, you have potable water again, which you pump into your toilet and flush your toilet. So you used it to bathe with, or your lavatory, and then you watered your plants in turn cleaned it, and you flushed your toilet, and then it goes outside to the black water system. These are perfectly legal in New Mexico. They do them all the time. We can do gray water here. We can't do black water in California, but I'm experimenting and doing both because it works. And you can plant pretty plants. These are like, you know, what they do in New Mexico. But out here we plant long-rooted grasses between the black water. You plant nitrogen fixtures, you know, mesquite natives, anything like that. Peach trees, things that do well here, pomegranates, apricots. A lot of fruit trees do really well out here. We get probably 200 peaches off of one tree every year. So, earthships are really cool. They catch all the water off the roof. This is a 16,000 gallon cistern. It runs off the roof, goes into the cistern. That is the water for the whole house. They don't have wells. They don't pump water out of the underground aquifers. They use what they catch. They get snowfall and rainfall. I catch a lot of water off of my roof. I have a gutter machine. I just played around with it, and I was catching close to 3,000 to 4,000 gallons when I had all my tanks up there. Right now I've gone through a metamorphosis where everybody's like, oh, they're ugly, put them here behind the bushes and put them over there, and I don't want to see them. And I started looking at these tanks, and they're capable of being stacked 3 high, full of water, or they came with mango or juice or something like that in them, and they can't reuse them, so I buy them and they're stackable. So I look at them and I go, wow, that could be the walls to my bathroom. So I'm building bathroom walls that will have water or air in them, 4 feet thick, that will be insulated, putting your roof over it, catching water, putting it in there from the roof, and then you tie them one into the other, so they just fill this one, fill the next one, and you can drain them all out the same way. And I just use it right now to water the yard with rather than using drinking water, but you could potentially filter that water if it's clean enough and drink it.
Excuse me for asking this, but is that up to code?
Yep.
Oh, wow.
What you do on your land is pretty much up to you. The only one they're not going to let you do is black water right now. But you can still do a biofield and plant in it. You just can't recycle it. When it gets to the end of the black water field now, we just let it get shallow and then it evaporates away. The gray water systems I build like a riverbed. I build them outdoors. They meander. They have a waterfall entrance. When they reach the end, I put in a deep well base where I actually collect water and I push rainwater into it to flush it when we get rains. And I add that water into storage in the well. So I can water my yard with thousands of gallons of water that's been cleaned by plants from people staying in the trailers. I can also, what I have been doing is going down 15, 20 feet, which is why we don't get recharges. We've been so dry so long, we're hard packed, we can't penetrate that hard pack and get water to percolate down, so we have to do percolation ponds. Well, in the system, when you reach the other end and you bulb this out and you create a well underground, you put an overflow pipe in so that if I fill this up and I have excess water, I can start pushing my water from my property and my rainfall back into our aquifer at every house. If we did that, we don't need to bring water from 800 miles away up north. If they have it. Right now they don't have any because there's no snowpack or water. We're never really that drought. So these systems could be putting the same water that we took out back into the ground for the most part. You're going to use a little bit to grow your plants. They store water, but they're going to clean a lot of it, and we're going to recycle probably 50% of that and put it back if we do these things. And it's very simple to do. It's a lot of earth moving and work in the beginning. Once they're set up, they run on their own. They're part of a natural system. You're just copying a river and a waterfall entrance. And you're putting a little net in at the beginning to catch, hair and stuff like that runs through a shower or whatever. You do need to use bio-friendly. Okay, not biodegradable, not any kind of earth-friendly, not any of that bullshit they use on the packages you buy everywhere. Everybody is green and whatever, they're not. It has to be biocompatible. Is that what I said? Biocompatible. It means it won't kill plants, doesn't have salts in it. Your laundry detergents need to be that way. They're more expensive, but if you're going to do this kind of system, it's necessary. Okay? And you still use your septic. You have your black water, your dirty water, you have your solids tank, you have your dirty water, and then it flows into the biofield outside, and those long-rooted grasses will clean it, and then you just let it evaporate back into the sky. So by the time you get there, you really used it 4 times. You showered, you watered your plants, you pumped it back into your toilet, and then it's in your black water finally, and your grass crop, if you plant a grass crop that gives you food again, you're getting something back, and it's cleaning well enough to put it back into the sky. Right? Very cool systems, and I love it. I think it's the way to go. We don't need waste treatment plants. We can do this on every property and put most of our water back into our aquifers right here. So, next slide. So this is a drawing we did. This is the tote tanks. We stack them up. We bring the gutter in off the roof. So this is 2 tanks stacked. They come out to a little less than 8 feet. They will fit under most gutters. I do rain gutters that are seamless, the machine that makes it any length you want. I've done 85-foot gutters for people, once so you don't have any leaks. It's a funny how, it's been running on the ground for years, and all of a sudden, it's got to drip, oh my God, I'm losing rainwater. And it's like, but it happens. Really people get protective of their drippy water ends. All we have is caps on each end, and it runs into here. Generally, you'll fill 550 gallons in any rainfall here, and it'll overflow for about 30 or 40 minutes. I figure 11 to 1,600 gallons is the minimum anybody should have, because you will fill that up pretty much every time we get a monsoon. And then this is a roofing system that I've designed. These are steel studs. Basically, you go over existing roof, you put down a membrane that waterproofs it. And what happens here, this is corrugated metal, very inexpensive. In the summertime, you leave the vents open and you let the air go through here, passes through, and cools your house. Because the sun reflects off the metal roof, heats it up, and then this takes away the heat. And it passes out through the peak or goes to the other side. In the winter, you have a little gizmo that's like the steel studs that has a slot in it, and you slide it, and you seal it off. Now you've created a dead air space in the winter, so the sun heats that up. That heat will transfer into your house, and you're getting free heating from the sun. So, very simple systems. I got the rainwater system approved last week with Hero. They're covering it. They didn't used to cover gutters until I said, how do you get the water off the roof into the tanks? They finally figured out they needed gutters to do that, so they approved that. And now we're trying to get this one approved for some people up in the Quail Springs area to do their roof with corrugated system. So, all kinds of ways you can get, passive solar to work for you. Next. So, where are we going? What's the future like? Well, here's solar panels on a car. We haven't done that yet. Even our electric cars are coming out with no solar panels on them, but they should have it because they'll extend their range. And when you park it at work in the sun, you don't want to park in the shade anymore. You want to park it in the sun. And they also have glass that tints down with the solar panels too. It's actually clear glass, and it'll tint. And they're doing that on skyscrapers now all over the world, except here. We're not doing that yet. But so they can actually have a computer system that tints the building and keeps the sunlight out, but it absorbs it as solar energy. And it can be dimmed with a switch on the wall. So if you're having a board meeting, you can dim it to bring light in and then dim it back. So you can control the temperature of the building using the solar panels and a computer. Next one. Oh, there will be your battery backup to your house too. Not that far off. Anybody heard of Hyperloop? Anybody know what this one is? That's a bullet train. We've been trying to build that for 25 years. This came out of the 70s. They've been wanting to do it. They got some of the funding, but the problem with these is they use earth magnets. They're super expensive. They're super heavy. They use a ton of electricity because you're levitating a train on electromagnetics at 200 miles, 300 miles an hour. Elon Musk bought a company that's called Hyperloop, and this is the car. The car is in a tube, and they're a monorail type system like Disneyland. There's two tubes. One to go that way, one to come this way. And all they do is they put you in the car, they lock the car into place, they turn a big fan on at the other end, and they suck you to San Francisco in 260 miles an hour to 800 miles an hour if they can figure out how to slow it down without killing you. Because you're going to be there in about 30 minutes at 200 miles an hour.
And why does Jerry Brown's plan suck?
Well, they're building the first 50 miles of this from San Jose to San Francisco. They've already got the dollars because this is about a 20th of the price of this, and it uses a fifth of the energy. Because the fans are really cheap to operate compared to the other. So they're actually going to build this. That's what's coming. And I'm saying, I think put solar panels all over this thing to power the whole damn thing up. But 800 miles an hour, you can go across the ocean via Alaska to wherever and be there really quickly. We don't need planes anymore, do we? And if we did need planes, next slide. There they are. This one's already gone around the world. This is a solar-powered plane. Beginning of Europe, flew around the world. And when they got to, I think it was Hawaii, or no, it was I don't remember where he landed, but when he landed, the first thing he said when he got out is they told me that I couldn't do this. There it is. He did it.
Whose plane is that?
It's a German company, a German engineering company that built it. I can't remember the name of it. I had the newspaper ad, but it's pretty amazing because they told him he couldn't do it. This is what's being done all the time by people that have vision. And that's San Francisco is flying over, and that's the actual plane. But it's all the wings are solar panels. This is all solar panels. This is all solar panels. It's all electrically propelled, and he did it. It took him 5 days to fly across the Atlantic. And it's solo flight. He was on his own. He did yoga in the cockpit to stay awake. Because he had to be at the controls of it because it's a real lightweight composite plane. But it can be done, you know.
The guy didn't sleep for 5 days?
Nope. Next slide. Oh, the little airship. The little airship that could. There's all you need, solar panels, earthen walls. These take on heat during the day, transfer it into the house. It's called thermal mass. Very simple systems. No energy necessary if you build it right. I think that's the end of it. So living in harmony with nature, what it's all about. My website is 2minutesofsunlight.com because that's all it takes to power the world for a year. And we have a solar calculator if you want to run your own numbers and see if you want to do solar. We could actually take a few people that want to see what's available on Hero. It's 24 hours, there's no charge. They can tell you what's available. Hero is not just solar, it's doors and windows, insulation, any kind of energy efficiency. Now it's rainwater harvesting, we've got that on there. We're going for the corrugated roof, but there's 900,000 items in their listings of what you can do with those funds if you want to.
How does the Hero system work? Does it pick and choose, or can Hero?
Whatever you want to do.
In other words, you can use.
The solar water heaters that I'm looking at, they're new, they're on the Hero list. I'm just not going to sell them to anybody until I've tried them. Make sure it works good.
I mean, Hero, it doesn't make sense. Why is Hero so good?
Battery storage is there now.
How come Hero doesn't belong to somebody? How come it doesn't belong?
It's a federal program. It doesn't belong to anybody. It's that PACE funds that were put away a long time ago for energy efficiency. So that whole system has grown. And Hero is a loan company that had the forethought. They started in San Diego to go to a county and say, look, we got all this money laying over here that can be loaned. Why don't you let us put it on the property tax bill? It becomes a write-off, and they put the system together. In the beginning, there used to be prepayment penalties. There aren't anymore. You can pay it off early, and they don't care. When Bobby put his in, his father passed away and he inherited some money. And we were ready to sign the docs and put him on the hero loan. And I thought they're going to charge him like a bank at least $1,500. I said, don't worry about it. They didn't charge him a nickel. So it's a very, very cool company. You talk to a person on the phone anytime you want to. They're happy at their jobs because they're doing something good. I like them a lot. But I'm not saying you can't pay cash. You can't. I think you should do it any way you can. Even a lease, as bad as it is better than not doing it at all. There's lots of people with leases out there, but they're really not. It's like leasing a car. It isn't a win-win for you. It's a, if you're a company and you want to lose a lot of money and write it off, that's a good thing. That's not it. But you should own your system. You should get your 30% back. You should get all your write-offs. You should do it because that's the biggest thing you can do to affect climate change.
I actually have the information up on the computer right now, so if you guys were interested to see in how much you would qualify for the HERO program, if you give me like your address and your information, I can show you right now how much you would qualify for to see what you can be putting
It's that fast. The approval is like
it is
bam.
that fast.
The only thing is if there's a cloud on your title or your address is funky, like a lot of them out here. I had one guy had 3 addresses, man. He was on Dark Desert Shadow, he was on Turtle, and he was on Rocking Chair. And it's like, which one is yours? I don't know. It depends on what one is in the county file at this moment. But usually within a couple of seconds, you know what you have and how much it is. Unless you have one of those little instances of something going on. That one person turned down in over a year and a half. I've been doing HERO. So it's a pretty cool thing. And again, it isn't just solar, but solar is the one thing. If you do it, it will pay you back, and you'll be energy secure, and you won't be paying Edison anymore, or anybody actually. So,
Yeah.
Anybody have any questions after all that?
We asked them all during your talk.
You guys did good at it. You absorbed all that. That's a lot of information.
Wow.
One thing I didn't catch, and it was in the other one, is another German product, wind. But this is rooftop wind. This is on your house. You can put it up on the peak of the roof. And I had a picture up there, and there's one here, but here's solar panels, and then here they are on the peak. Germany's way ahead. These are not harmful to birds. They're, they generate 500 kW at peak time, which is about 30 mile-an-hour winds. They're actually like a squirrel cage and a housing. They're omnidirectional. The wind can come from either direction. You can mount them on the edge of the building this way, or a tower. You don't need a pole. You don't have blades that hurt birds. Very cool product. And this would work at night when your solar panels aren't working.
What's it called?
It's called a, let's see, what do they call it? LUV, maybe it's Love, LUV wind.
Wow.
Coming out of Germany, they just started importing them. Again, I'm going to buy one and test it. But they only do the 500 kW. Here they have larger ones that are 8 feet long that'll do 1500 kW. And the actual generator is mounted inside the squirrel cage kind of generation. So they have a whole row of them. If you can, I can pass this
Does
around.
it have a turbine then?
Yeah, so it's a wind turbine.
It's a wind turbine.
They have to be locked down at a certain
When they installed a couple.
They have a brake. They'll break if it goes over too much. The brake is the motor, actually, which is really cool because the little ones you buy and the home jobs that you see and the big ones out there in the field have huge brakes. Talking about moving parts. You got blades that rotate. Those really big ones take 6 big ones to get one big one going. They don't start with the wind. They have to be powered up, and it takes 6 of them to generate enough juice to get the blades going. Then once they're going, they generate.
Crazy.
But they do them out at sea in Germany. They have those big ones out there in the ocean going to the floor for the trade winds. Battery storage, as I said, you're going to go from lead acid batteries. These are gold plated. These are the best ones of our generation. But the lithium ions that Tesla's building right now for his cars are going to be way more superior than this, less money, and you're better off waiting and just getting a car. Because your power wall that charges your car has a battery in it that will back your house up for a day or charge your car overnight. And your car will be your backup to your house. Awesome. You won't have both. And the computer systems he's putting in these cars, like that S model right now, It could run your whole world. I mean, it's a supercomputer.
Approximately how long of a wait do you think? Are
Those are out in 2017.
2017?
35 grand, and then you get a rebate of $7,500. You're talking about Henry Ford's car. Everybody can afford one. I mean, why don't you go buy an SUV for 50 or 60 that burns gas? Remember, you're going to get a car with a motor, shocks, brakes, tires, steering, air conditioning. But that's it. There's no oil changes, there's no engine, there's no emissions, there's no exhaust, there's no tune-ups, there's no nothing.
Wow.
The motors in those things will go 600 to 800,000 miles before they need to be replaced. The transmission, there isn't one. It's direct drive. You know, who knows that locomotive trains are electric? They're electric. The big rumbly, noisy diesel thing, that's a generator to run the electric wheels. Look how much weight those things pull.
Yeah.
You know, you put 5 of them together and you're pulling tons upon tons. So why can't diesel trucks be the same way? Why can't diesel truck trailers have solar panels all over them that run the diesel?
Oil
diesel
industry?
electric motors? It could. We could have done this years ago. The electric the locomotive started in 1928 when we built the first one. Those DC motors were way back in Tesla's time. They're so powerful, the motors never wear out on those things. You're rebuilding that diesel generator all the time, but you're not rebuilding the diesel motors. DC motors are way, way more powerful and long-lasting than AC motors. So right now, there's a revolution in all your air conditioning systems and everything else to take AC, convert it to DC, and put a DC motor in an air conditioner. But the motor that was this big in an air conditioner is now this big, using a third of the energy, and it doesn't need to come on all the time. And it can run 5 mini compressors. So when you do like split systems or ductless system air conditioners, you got a 5-ton here, you only need like a half a ton to run your whole house. And one will do it all. And they're quiet, and they're efficient. And they can do heating too. So your whole, everything begins to change when you start looking at what is out there. And I actually use baseboard heaters. I don't even do any of the split systems or anything like that. You take a baseboard heater, they're like $60 from Home Depot. You put it in front of a window, and convection will circulate it into the room. You don't even need a fan. As that hot air rises, the cold air hits it and creates convection. It will circulate through the room for free. That's passive use of energy. Okay? They're quiet. You don't need a fan. Why do we build all those old systems? It's because the model was at that time in the 50s to create this false economy using energy as the spur. That's what made the boom happen, the growth happen, burning all this energy. It was abundant. The oil was on the surface. The water was on the surface. Guess what? It ain't anymore. And we can't afford to keep doing that. We can't have lights on everywhere at night. We shouldn't. We should have motion detectors. Turn them off. There's a college over there. I talked to the president over there, and he says, women are afraid to walk to their cars. I go, what are the security guards for? You know? Or put them on motion detectors again. Or leave a few lights on. You don't need them all. You don't need to glow like the moon. Has anyone been to Atlanta? It's one of my favorite places. That's where everything goes that nobody wants anywhere else. You know, the International Air Terminal that didn't make it into El Toro Marine Base. That's where it went. You've got 6 prisons. You've got a federal prison, 3 juveniles in a couple states. That federal prison looks like the sun when you drive by at night, man. They got it so lit up. And the guys are in bunkers. I mean, the window's this big, you can't get out it. And that's your view. It's a concrete cell, and you can't get out that window, so no one's going to escape. But they light it up like, because that's the model. They still burn. Water heaters, I guarantee the water heater for this building is inside, in a cool place. And what's it doing?
We don't have them.
On, off, heating water. Nobody's using it. Everybody's house has one. It's going on, off. So I take them, I get an old refrigerator, I take it, paint it black, stick it in the fridge, put a glass door on it, throw it up on your roof. Now the sun heats it up. It doesn't go on, off anymore. It's solar. It's still electrified, so if it gets cold, it'll work. Or if you drain it completely once, it'll still work. But that on-off thing is gone, and they're built on cycles. That means the last 6 years, it's 25,000 cycles. And then it's burned out. The elements, it doesn't matter if it's propane or electric. It's going to last 6 years based on how many times it goes on and off, and then it's worn out. Well, if you stop the cycling, it's now a 15 or a 20-year water heater, because the tank won't wear out, because you're running with solar energy. And it's very cheap to do. I put 2 on Jenny Q's. Actually, the first one I did, I took it out of my travel trailer that I bought. I put it in a glass box just made out of 4 windows that I took out of a house. I put a roof on it and a bottom on it, sealed it up. I melted the wiring in the water heater because it got up to 350 degrees.
Wow.
And I shorted out. And then I learned I needed to vent it because it got too hot. It was like an oven.
Wow.
So I just got a car thermostat and put it in the top, and that opens at 160 degrees and lets the heat in. So real simple systems. All we really did was move it from a cool place going on and off. Marco did it. This is Marco. He's my installer for solar.
Hi, Mark.
He does these systems for us. Anyway, you're just changing where it was to a place in the sun and using that free thermal energy. And it works. Or you can do, a solar power one too. Basically, it's just the same thing. It's the direct driven solar water heater with no pumps and glycol and any of that other stuff. All right. Thank you.
Oh,